Okay, good evening. I will call the activities meeting to order. It's not listed, but I'd like to see if there's any public comment to start. Okay, not seeing any. We will move into our first item, which is the service learning pilot.
Coming, takes a minute. Yep, there it is. It's not coming on, Danielle. Oh, there it is, okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Burkholder and I will be presenting together this evening on a service learning pilot for the high school that we're very excited to bring to your attention tonight. So, doing that right? Okay. So we're beginning the presentation with why a service learning model. We have a lot of service learning opportunities for our students at the high school, but we want you to know that this was actually a goal in the district's comprehensive plan. So originally, it was recommended to be a graduation requirement. It's also additionally connected to the district goal of providing instruction in SEL, or social and emotional learning. In 2015-16, the original committee was chaired by Dr. Phillips and Mrs. Cindy Drovick. She is a guidance counselor at the elementary level. And they put the committee together to establish the criteria for graduation requirements. And as we know, Dr. Phillips moved on, and Dr. Bavard and I kind of took over, and then Mrs. Burkholder came on board, so she and I have taken over that committee, and we've been working together. So the new committee that we chaired together determined that the service learning should be a choice and not a requirement. So it's no longer going to be a requirement. That's a recommendation from this committee. And we had a lot of discussion about that, whether it should be a graduation requirement. Basically, we wanted to be able to provide more opportunity for students to provide service learning, and kind of, with the intention of helping students see the value of service learning. So the original goals that were established from the first committee and continued on with the next committee were for students to be connected to real-life learning, to help build character, to provide opportunities to serve and develop civic responsibility, and to create a positive change in the community. So with those goals, we'll move on to our next. We're going to actually explain what the pilot is, but they were the original goals, and from those goals we've created this pilot, and Mrs. Burkholder will go over the specifics.
So if we looked at the pilot, we looked at identifying how can we roll this out instead of just saying this is going to occur. Let's look at things, make sure that it's going to work throughout the year with a number of students. So we identified that the pilot would take place during the 17-18 school year. We're going to actually have that pilot run from September to December. Of course, we'll encourage service learning beyond that, but we want to be able to evaluate the process from September to December. We're looking to have up to 50 students be in this original pilot, and we're going to be requesting that those students come from Key Club and National Honor Society. And we're going to be asking them if they're of interest in, one, being a part of the pilot for that period of time from September to December. We're also going to be looking for a pilot advisor who will be paid with the professional rate that's currently in the contract of $25 an hour for approximately 24 hours during this school year, so between September and December, and then beyond, to continue helping those students that have initiated the pilot process. We're looking at this point that would be a total of $600, and that was added already into the 17-18 budget for the advisor. We looked at a number of ways throughout this committee to be able to say, how are we going to evaluate the process of students obtaining those hours? How are we going to look at reflection? How are we going to manage and ensure that those hours that are being completed by students are accounted for? So we looked at a program called X2Vol, and we looked at, it basically stands for Time to Volunteer, We currently use Naviance at the high school as well as the middle schools, but X2Vol is a connection with Naviance, and the students can access it right in their original account of Naviance. And it's a data warehouse process that only looks at not only just the service hours that they do, but the students would actually have their goals in there, the reflection. The provider that they're actually completing the hours with would also be able to work within that program, so they could document that, yes, those hours were completed. If the student put in 3 hours and the provider said, no, they actually did 2 hours, they could correct that, or they could say they actually did 4 and correct that as well. The advisor then will be able to manage that and see everything that's processed. In addition to that, we'll be able to catalog that for the student. So everything that they do put in, we can then catalog. It could also go as part of their resume or college application, because we can print everything out for them as well. So X2Vol is a partner, again, with Naviance, and we do want to present a link. So I'm going to present it on here. You also have the link on the computer that you can see if you just click on that link, so that everyone can see that. So this is just a short video of a demo of what X2Vol is, so you can get an idea of what it looks like to a child when they're going in to log their hours, as well as parents can view this from home.
Tracking service hours should be as digital as your students. If the strategic initiatives for your district include promoting involvement in the community, volunteering, community service, or service learning, then our award-winning product, X2Vol, can help you centralize service by allowing school administrators to create service goals, post opportunities, and approve hours. X2Vol is being used by public and private schools nationwide to replace the paper tracking process. Here's how it works. X2Vol can be customized to a wide range of service program structures. You can set up multi-year service goals, annual service goals, and even set up requirements for different types of service. One of our experienced service program specialists will work with you to set it up. Once rolled out, school staff members will be able to post opportunities that are school-sponsored or post on behalf of nonprofit organizations. Schools also have the option to invite nonprofit organizations to post directly to the students. Students receive a reminder prior to the event, and after they've completed their service, they will log their hours and include the date, the number of hours, contact information, and their reflections. Verification, approval, and authentication is part of X2Vol's process. Service history and service transcripts are always available online to the student, the school, and the parents for use on the college application, scholarships, and resumes. Your students are making a positive difference in the community. It's easy to get started. We look forward to working with you.
Okay. So the committee really discussed what did we want our students to get out of this, other than we understand the value of community service. We wanted them to understand the value of community service, but we weren't sure how we would know that and how they would understand the impact of their service. So we talked a lot about including a reflection piece. It's one thing to be able to record the hours and say where you went and have up to 100 hours, or the number of hours that we would require, but the learning we felt came from reflection. So that really was the centerpiece for the service learning model for us to establish this. And again, we have service learning opportunities, and collectively through Key Club, National Honor Society, and other clubs, this one, the Service Learning Club, we wanted to make sure included this piece. So as Michelle just showed you, in the X2Vol, there's a box, but that box expands. So we talked about, is the expectation that students write a dissertation every time they do something? Not necessarily, and we're not going to say that they should. What we're going to say is after you do one or so many of them, jot something down that you would like to remember about that, any kind of impact they had. But we also wanted it to grow in space because we also wanted to give them an opportunity to say, maybe this is where you want to start writing a paper, an essay for your college applications. And maybe this is a place that you can do that. So the expectation is start thinking about that when something really does have an impact for you, or even in the beginning, just think about that and just jot something down. And for those who want to expand on that. But then we talked about, so their students will be writing that down, but who will have conversations with them about that? And we really realized that we needed some kind of an advisor, which is why we talked about that in the beginning. So we need somebody to have these conversations with the students to say, hey, you know, I noticed this, or do you want to talk about what was the impact of you know, your service at the hospital? But we really think that the real true value is that self-reflection and that ability to kind of talk that out with an adult. So really that's the centerpiece of service learning, of this particular service learning club. You have the...
As Dr. Scheid had mentioned, there's a number of things already occurring at the high school for service learning opportunities like Key Club and National Honor Society. We didn't want to tell those students that, okay, you're already involved in those. Now you need to do, if you want to be part of the service learning club, you need to do an additional 100 hours. The hours would be totaled in all. So if they're working in Key Club and they're already doing things, they can also be a part of the service learning club, and those hours would be logged through X2Vol and within Naviance, and they can still get that recognition. But you also do not need to be in Key Club or National Honor Society in order to be in the Service Learning Club. We want to give another opportunity for students and really look at the purpose of the service learning versus just being in another club and making it meaningful for students. So an example here is just 3 different clubs that we've identified, service learning being the new club, and we're recommending that the students finish 100 hours in order to be recognized at graduation. And again, it's not just logging of the hours, it's really that connection with the reflection piece as we move forward.
And that brought us to the recognition. We thought about, you know, how else can we help students, really? And we had conversation about what kind of recognition, and we really wanted to do something at graduation. So we thought we can highlight names in the graduation program, we can put a seal on a diploma, and then, I did not come up with this name, Michelle didn't come up with this name, Mary Lou Ashworth, who was librarian for Central Middle School, she came up with, well, why don't we call them Pennridge Service Scholars? And everybody agreed that that would be terrific. That, you know, somehow we're going to honor you for your service at Pennridge, and you will be a Pennridge Service Scholar. And you'll be able to put that on your college applications, and we will honor you at graduation and make that known that you accomplished that during your high school time.
Some examples of some of the service learning locations or opportunities are listed here. We talked about not only things that are in the community, but we also talked with the building principals about activities that happen in their schools. For example, it could even be buddy reading or an ice cream social, or students doing field day and they want opportunities for our high school students to be assisting and doing different things. We looked at those as well. So within X2Vol, the advisor would have the opportunity to not only reach out to our own schools and our own community members to say what is available for our students and what help do you need. We would then be able to post them within X2Vol, say how many students are needed, and then students can actually log on right there. So a student may not have to go out and search for service hours. We're going to be providing them multiple opportunities to say, is this an interest? Do you have an interest in the hospital setting or in a school setting? And then really to have this connection for their postgraduate service or opportunities to get them thinking about what's out there and what works for them and connects with them as well. So here's just a number of activities that we came up with in addition to our own schools.
Then we talked about how will we measure the success of the pilot, and really it's going to be twofold. We're looking for the perceptions of the students, about the value of their service, about the perception of reflection. Was the reflection piece beneficial? If so, how was that? We also want to talk to the students about the value of being recognized. These are just some questions that we really want to yield the results from students. And then we also, obviously, we want to see how easy or difficult using X2Vol will be. Is it a relatively easy system for students and for the advisor to navigate? And then finally, we're going to say, well, what did we miss? What recommendations would the students give us, or could the students give us, and the advisor? And just remembering that it's a pilot, so we don't have all the answers. We're trying to set this up, and we will monitor that kind of data as we go.
In addition to the student survey, we also looked at the end of this upcoming school year, we want to make recommendations to you as a school board on what will this continue to look like if we move forward with the service learning model at the high school. So some of the series of questions that we came up with are listed here. We really identified, do we want to start with the class of 2022 for them entering from their 8th grade year into 9th grade and say, this is introduced to them so that way they know, even over the summer in entering 9th grade, they can begin taking some of those opportunities to begin those service learning hours. In addition to that, if we're looking at those 8th graders going into 9th grade, are we also then going to say the students that are sophomores, juniors, and seniors of that before the class of 2022, do they have that opportunity? Will students be required to complete 100 hours by January 31st of their senior year? And we identified that although it was a great time for us to be able to identify and calculate and for the recognition, but it may be too late for them to identify that on a college application or resume, etc. And we want them to be able to have that opportunity to put that on their resume when they're filling out their college applications to say that they're a Pennridge Service Scholar. So many of those students, if they start entering in their 9th grade year, could complete those 100 hours prior to them filling out those applications for their junior year. So we wanted to identify recommendations for students at the end of next year, what we should be looking at for the Service Learning Scholar or the Pennridge Service Scholar. And then will there be prorated number of hours for students that move in? So if a student moved in during their junior year and didn't have that opportunity, can they enter and then will their hours be adjusted or prorated, or do we keep the consistent 100-hour recommendation? So these are things that we do not have answers to right now based on the student survey and based for feedback that we're going to be getting from students, staff, and also parents from the time of September to December of next year. We'd like to make these recommendations before we move forward permanently in the future. That's the end of the presentation. Are there any questions regarding the slides that were presented this evening?
I have some questions. First of all, how will you said the students will be chosen from Key Club and Honor Society, but how will you select them? Mm-hmm. And will one of you be the advisors, or you're going to pick somebody in the high school?
We will be posting it. It will be neither one of us will be the advisor. Mm-hmm. What we were thinking is work with the advisor and then take 25 students from each, but it would be first come, first serve, and maybe we don't get 25 from one and we may need to have more students from the other one, but ultimately we're looking for, we think a reasonable number is 50, just to make sure that the advisor who's working with them, with that group, will be able to go through the system without overburdening them.
Oh, there's probably a lot of overlap between Honor Society and Key Club.
Yes.
And then, just one thing, a comment that I had is that Key Club requires 50 hours by April 30th of each year. So, I mean, somebody who's in Key Club, I mean, if they did it for 2 years, they would easily have the 100 hours, before their senior year.
So currently, we're already tracking the hours for things like Key Club with those groups of students. I am having trouble seeing the benefit of the subscription cost per student to be able to house that data there rather than us just housing it ourselves. Because right now it's a small group that you're piloting, but I'm assuming the intent is that if it's successful, you're going to have the entire high school participate in this. So isn't there a way we can kind of house that data ourselves for free?
Sure, so we had those discussions. We actually talked about that not only this year with the committee, but in previous years prior to myself joining the committee. One of the big pieces is we can house the hours. We can calculate the hours without the program. The piece we were really looking for is the ability to have reflection, the ability to track all of those components and give feedback within the same program. So right now those hours are calculated. One of the pieces we did meet with the Key Club advisor. We also had the National Honor Society advisor to say, what is working? What have you done before? And could this be in combination with what you're already doing? And the reflection piece continued to come back to us as a committee to say, well, what else can we do to make this more not just an hour process, not just logging the hours, but really making it different by connecting it with that reflection and then giving feedback to students. So that's why we looked at this program. That's why we also requested to pause a little bit and move it as a pilot to see if the program is necessary. We wanted to trial it with a small number of students to see, is it beneficial? Are we getting what we focused on within the original committee questions this year to say, is X2Ball able to provide that to us? And or can we do it on our own? And that's why we wanted to look at that this year with just a small pilot.
I guess my personal opinion is that there's other ways that they can convey their reflections to us without having to purchase the program. So, I mean, my preference would be to do that a different way.
If I could just add, when we were talking to the advisors from the other two clubs, they were really excited that we would be able to have this program to make calculating the hours, keeping all the data in one place. That would be much more efficient. It would be an efficient way to keep everybody's data in one place. So while it does give you that piece where you can put your reflection, clearly you can do your reflections in other places. But this piece, and we don't know that it's going to be worth it, that's why we're doing the pilot. This will be able to have all that data in one place for all of us to be able to, not us, but the advisors to be able to have that information there. And for students to use Naviance, right? And they could use that system too to track their hours and how, the service that they are providing. It's a combination of efficiency, reflection for the students, and having all that data housed in one place. And it's also in addition to the Naviance program, so we're really trying, to use Naviance, in the capabilities that it provides.
You're piloting with 50 students and you're going to open it to Key Club and National Honor Society. What if you don't get 50 students from each of them? Are you going to open it up to the general population?
We could. We're anticipating that we will, but if we don't, we could open it up. We don't want a very small population. I mean, originally the committee thought 30 just for manageability, but we thought, well, we don't want to limit that much, so let's go for 50. So we'll see. I mean, I guess the answer is we can. How close to 50 we get, if we get to 45, we'll be okay, but if we get 17, then we'll have a problem and we'll have to seek students elsewhere.
Understood.
Thank you.
And you're asking for 100 hours from September to December? Did I misunderstand?
It's 100 hours over your 4 years at the high school.
Okay.
Do you have that time?
Okay. Perfect. Then, and also you have the second bullet point on your last slide, sophomores, juniors, and seniors recognition. Students obviously could accumulate more than 100 hours. So why not just recognize their cumulative hours at graduation when they're graduating as their service recognition, as opposed to, not that I don't want to recognize our students, but if they do decide to do more hours every year, they can well surpass 100 hours. I know it's one when you see how much the Key Club and the National Honor Society does do. There's quite a few hours involved, so those hours can add up, and especially if you're going to do it over either the 4 years, if you're able to have freshmen involved, and 25 hours a year is something I think our students could accomplish without a problem.
Absolutely agreed. I think a part of the discussion was we have students who are in National Honor Society and Key Club who are really interested, right? And they're working really hard, and they well surpass 100 hours. We were trying to find a way through the Service Learning Club itself, outside of the whole scope of everything, to bring other students on board. And we wanted to make the number reasonable enough that they would be able to earn that. But to your point, students who go well beyond that, there'd be no reason why we couldn't recognize the number of hours at graduation. Absolutely not. If it was 1,000 hours, they should be recognized for that. But so it was just to bring more students into a service learning model.
Well, then, to that point, my suggestion to you, because graduation is typically the seniors and their parents and other family members, we have a display case out front that right now has our students that are serving in the military and also athletes.
Right.
Why can't we take a portion of that to recognize our students there? If you truly want to recognize them and have their peers be able to walk by and see them, well, where better place?
Thank you, Mr. Ragomo. We agree with you. That was one of the things that we were talking about, and hopefully as this keeps going on, we do want to do that, and we thought, how wonderful will that be when the students, at the high school can be remembered that way. So yes, we agree with you, and we would like to move in that direction. Go ahead.
Thank you.
To continue with that, we had a lot of discussion around that topic because we feel they should be honored in a variety of ways, not just a graduation. And that was one of the reasons to do the student survey, because we want their feedback to say what else can we do? Is this enough? Is there something else we can do? We also talked to the elementary schools about having a Pennridge Service Scholar bulletin board in the elementary schools that the students that earn those hours went to, so that way students in elementary school could get excited about doing similar things because this was really something that we were piloting for high school students, but we don't want that to only be a high school option. So we were trying to get, and how can we promote it with our younger students, not only by allowing our high school students to do more service time in their own schools that they went to when they were younger, but then to show the students that's something to look forward to and to be able to follow in their footsteps.
And I could just add one more thing. So I was at a curriculum writing meeting this afternoon at the middle school, and we were talking about, how do we were having a discussion on how we measure the progress in our curriculum with drugs and alcohol. That brought out all different kinds of conversation about how we should be proactive, what things could we do. So I started talking about this for tonight, and that we were going to be bringing this to your committee. And the middle school teachers wanted to know why we can't have one at the middle school. So I think if we start with this, it will grow and it'll be a K-12. We hope so. People get very excited about that. There are a lot of students out there who, their example was, they want to join student council, but there's only a number of students who join student council. What can we do with the other students? So, wow, well, we can call this. So I think it'll grow.
I just wanted to clarify something. So on the last slide, it says, the question about starting with the class of 2022 and calling them freshmen, and I think, this is how I'm understanding it, you're saying, will sophomores, juniors, and seniors be able to participate? Not that they would be recognized each year, but that before saying that the classes of 2019, 20, and 21 would be recognized at graduation. I think that's what that. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Not that there'll be a recognition ceremony every year for the kids. It'll just be at the end. But will we start in 2022, or can we start in 2018 or 19 or 20? Can we start actually at graduation before that? So, do we need to take any action on this at the board meeting, or?
There is a little bit of money involved here for the Naviance piece and for the advisor piece. So we could certainly look at this as a motion for Monday evening for a motion to support the pilot for 17-18 for the service learning pilot.
All right. So everyone's fine with moving that forward? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing about the results of the pilot.
Thanks.
All right, so we're moving on to overnight trip requests. So the first one up is Odyssey of the Mind.
We had 5 field trips this evening. 3 of them ran last year. And we do have representatives, chaperones from those trips here with us. First one is actually a parent volunteer. Thank you so much to Linda Reed, who is here with the principal of Central, Chris Temchat. If you recall, this was a topic at the last board meeting, and we had passed on congratulations at that time. Dr. Redding talked about the Odyssey of the Mind qualifying for the World Finals out in Michigan, so at Michigan State University. So that since it's an overnight trip, we asked them to come this evening. So if you have any questions about that trip template, these are all the trip templates are linked here on your agenda on your computer. And students are driving, of course, and I believe one of the reasons is because they had to build everything, and so they have lots of structures and things to take. They only had so much money they could spend on materials, so I'm assuming you're having to take a trailer to haul this stuff out there? Or...
We are. We're renting a trailer, and a parent is pulling the trailer up there. We're actually taking a one-way rental. We're just going to leave the trailer there, and anything that the kids don't want to keep, we're going to enjoy destroying when we get after we finish competing in Michigan.
So it said that everybody is going with a parent, so each parent is driving their own car
Yes.
with their own child in it? And so, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
I would just like to say my son participated in this back in the day. Regina Schremeyer was his coach and he made it to World. So I understand when you wanted to get rid of everything. You're so tired of looking at these props and costumes. So yeah, it was fun to tear everything apart.
Yeah, it's a long program.
It is a long program. It is. But it's a lot of work and how rewarding and how educational. It's an awesome, awesome program. So thank you for volunteering to be a coach.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
May I say, that seems like the right time to step in and just, I know you recognized our team members, our 6 team members, 5 8th graders and 1 7th grader who made it to Worlds, which is unbelievable. We also need to recognize Mrs. Reed, the Odyssey of the Mind, not just for being a fantastic coach, obviously, but 3 years ago, my first year as the principal at Pennridge Central Middle School, Mrs. Reed's first year as a Pennridge resident, she came to me and proposed, can we start the Odyssey of the Mind team back up, something that had been dormant for some time. So even the fact that it exists as a team at Central is because of the initiative taken by Mrs. Reed, and the growth that those students who have been on the team for those 3 years is unbelievable, just the difference. So she's done a fantastic job first initiating and just being a proponent for that program and those kids. So we're very proud to have them representing us and Pennridge at the World Finals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this year, there were actually 19 children in the district that participated in different teams. And last year, there were 25 children who participated in different teams across the district. So personally, I'd love to see the program grow even more. And it is parent coached. So yeah, I just want to offer that up. If anybody has an interest across the district, I would be happy to help other teams get started. It's a wonderful program.
Perhaps we can share that in one of the newsletters if people are looking. I don't know if it's been in there already. People are looking to start a team. Yeah, to share that with parents.
Mr. Temchat was kind enough to mention this to our principals actually this morning on our secondary principals meeting, so I think word's already spreading. So
Good.
in case you have someone from one of the PTAs out there that contacts you, that would be well.
Sure, good.
So any questions?
If we put that, that's a great idea, putting it in the newsletter. If we did that, what would be the optimal time frame to put that in the newsletter to generate interest from parents? In time?
I would guess that it's right before the beginning of the school year. I think as parents are getting ready for a new school year, students are thinking about what they can become involved in. I think really mid-August to late August, just as we're getting started, would be the perfect time.
So you'll take note of that, Dr.
Did I not?
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for volunteering. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. And I believe Sally is here to answer any questions you may have regarding the thespian conference. This trip did run last year as well as prior years. And at this point, just looking at the high school trip,
Yes.
do you know if the middle schools are interested in running this again? If so, I'm assuming they're going to come back to us in September.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you, Dr. Price? Is this coming to the board as a motion then? $3,000 transportation?
From whom?
Or, I'm sorry, the registration fee?
The trips themselves are, Chris was able to pay for that out of his building budget.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
So,
missed
yeah,
that. Okay.
that's
thank
okay.
you. Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, our trip is self-funded, no money comes from the district, except for a day and a half of my substitute pay. Yes, this is only for the high school. There are certain deadlines for students at the high school level that need to apply if they want to audition for scholarship money. So that is why I brought the trip now, because their deadlines are at the beginning of October. So bringing it in September, sometimes we're real tight. I do not know of the middle school's intentions at this time. They are aware, again, that they need to bring it to you, but likely they could bring it in September and not have any issues with deadlines. As I said, for the high school seniors who wish to audition, there's a different set of deadlines.
Do you ever share the bus with the middle school students? In the past, have you shared the bus?
10 to 15 years ago, yes.
Okay.
But in the last 9 years, this would be my 9th year taking the trip as the thespian troupe director. We have enough students from the high school that we can't fit any extra.
That's great. Good
Just,
problem.
we have students bring so much luggage, even though it's only 2 nights. We can comfortably fit maximum of 44 students with our chaperones and their luggage.
Any other questions?
Thank you again, Mrs. Vogel.
Thank you very
for running
much.
this. It's a
Well, I've
great
loved having
program.
your daughter for 4 years. And look
most
forward-
certainly, she enjoyed her time there, and thank you for the experience. It was invaluable for her.
You're most welcome. Well, I want to provide the opportunities. There are students that participate in the theater arts, and particularly the thespian troupe, that don't participate in anything else at the high school. That's like their one passion, their one thing where they're comfortable. So I want to make sure they have that opportunity. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And this will be a motion at next week's board meeting, correct?
All right, the next trip is the ski and snowboard trip to Lake Tahoe. It looks like Jason's coming up in case there's questions.
I do have a couple extra paper copies if anyone would like one. And I have to apologize because oh, am I not on? Is that on?
Almost, the red light has to
The
stay on.
person, the face, there you go, you got it. No, there you go.
We got it?
See the red
Oh,
light?
thank you. Yeah, we're good. I do have to apologize. While I was reading over this, we changed a couple things, and I forgot to change the one line under cost, where it says, it's about the third or fourth line down, there's one planned instructional day. That is incorrect. So I did change that, excuse me, under school days missed. So I just wanted to clarify that. We modeled the trip after this year's trip. The only change is that we'd like to give the kids another opportunity to go to a different location. The reason why we chose Lake Tahoe is because there's a major airport nearby that we don't really have to worry about too many weather delays because it doesn't really snow in Reno too often. Its proximity to the resorts are conducive to what we're trying to do, and it gives the kids also quite a few options as far as ski resorts are concerned. We did reach out and make some preliminary contacts with, just housing and ski mountains and other types of accommodations. This would allow the kids to pretty much have the same trip, just in a different location and other options. As far as dates and times, everything is fairly the same. We would leave the Thursday, come back the Monday. We did have an incident this year where our plane broke down on the runway. So unfortunately, we got stuck. And when you're trying to travel on a travel day and you have 20 high school students, it can be very time consuming and hectic. We were able to get to Denver, but then we got stuck in Denver. So through working with the airline, they put us up and they took care of us. So it was no extra incurred costs for the kids. We did have a small incurred cost because we had to change our return flight to Newark. So our shuttle had to pick us up in Newark as opposed to Philadelphia. But the club was able to absorb that cost. Other than that, there is a slight increase in the cost of the trip this year from last year. We added $100, and that was because this year's trip was $6,000 more total. That was because of the change in the travel days from the first year that we went, and baggage fees. Due to our time that we left, we were unable to fly Southwest, which has free baggage fees, so we had to fly with American Airlines on the way out, and that incurred cost was that extra $6,000. Other than that, I think we covered pretty much everything else. This year's trip was very similar to last year's trip. We had about 20 students. This year we took 5 adults. Years prior we took 4. We stayed in the exact same house just because it was perfect for our needs, and the kids had a great time. We had 17 seniors, 3 juniors. 2 of our exchange students actually came on the trip this year, and it was great. The one student, he grew up in the Italian Alps, and he said it was the best skiing he had ever done on our ski trips. That was really cool to see. But a lot of these students, it was their highlight of their high school career with ski club. For some of these students, we've had them for 4 years, and just to see them as little freshmen that like to do anything and everything to drive us crazy, seeing them as seniors on this trip, it was really special, and I think everybody had a really enjoyable time.
Can you just touch on, for those that weren't here last year to hear your presentation, you thought there was a lot of benefit in last year's trip for students that are sharing a house?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Having to share the responsibilities of cooking and all that kind of
So
stuff, picking up after each other.
it's really nice to kind of sit back and let them go. And when we're on a trip like this, obviously we pre-order all the food, so when they get to the house, everything's already stocked there. But it's on them. They have to cook and they have to clean. And, the first year going through it, we kind of, I don't want to say we held their hand, but we definitely helped out a little bit more the first year. This year, kids were asking questions like, well, where's the measuring cup? I don't know. Open the cabinet, let's find it. And so we kind of let them, cook for themselves. And kids are excellent critics. We hear it every day in the classroom, if they're not happy. And they're going to tell each other if they didn't make something up to their standards. So watching them grow throughout the trip was awesome. They're responsible for unloading and loading up the gear. Skiing and snowboarding, we have a lot of gear. So they're responsible for helping, with luggage in the airport. There's a certain level of responsibility when you're flying with this many students across the country. And of course you preach the buddy system, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond in the sense that they need to help each other out. And they work on these skills next year. A lot of these kids are in college, and they have to figure it out on their own. And whether it's laundry or cooking or cleaning, they learned that responsibility and accountability, and watching that, kind of sitting back as advisors and as teachers and adults, and watching it foster throughout the trip. It was a really enjoyable experience, and I think the kids really got a lot out of it, and it gave them that real world sense of not only accomplishment but just experience. So that was great to see.
I have a couple of questions. Is it just for juniors and seniors?
No, it's open 9th through 12th. There is a certain level of responsibility, Are there freshmen and sophomores that are capable? I'm sure there are. Just the way, and we've never limited it, but the students that sign up have always been juniors and seniors. We kind of want to max it out at between 20 and 24 students, just because anything more than that, I'm not comfortable taking on that responsibility. It's a lot. Whether it's, the first year we had over 80 pieces of luggage, and trying to make sure that we had all that, and we use different colored duct tape, and we have special ID tags that are neon and stand out, so the kids see them and they know that they have to grab them. But just the bigger the trip would get, I just think that it would be more difficult to be successful. So I know that every one of our juniors from our first year came back this year as seniors. And I also know, just from talking to some of those kids and putting out feelers, they all have siblings and they all want to go. So, and those a lot of the parents that I've spoke to, it's kind of like a junior senior privilege for their students, or for their sons and daughters. So we're not limiting it to just juniors and seniors, but from the trend that we've seen, those are the students that have signed up.
Right, and so if you had more than 24, you would just take the older people?
Yes, seniority, yeah. And they do have to apply, they have to write us a quick application, and they have to tell us why we should take them on the trip. All students are in good academic and behavioral standing, so some of the kids, they know that if they can't hack it in the classroom, or if they're getting in trouble, they're not going to go on the trips, any of the trips for that matter, even the local Blue Mountain trips. Administration has been very supportive of us. We had 270 students in Skiing Board Club as a whole, so it's a really large club. I think our operating expenses were $105,000 this year, so it's a lot of work between all the different trips that we do. But we've had a lot of support, and the kids, they know that if they screw up, then there's nothing that we can do. They're out, and that kind of eliminates some of the issues that you might have, or that you might be concerned with on trips, even if it's just a local Blue Mountain trip. The cost, we did have that it's an extra $100. Our final payment isn't due till January, so if we do find cheaper flights, it wouldn't be as expensive. But that's something that we present to the parents from the very beginning, and they would all be happy if it doesn't cost them as much. What we tell the students, and I've said this to the board before, is to get a job, because obviously it's an expensive trip, but we have almost a year to plan for that, whether it's birthday money or holiday money or summer jobs, things like that. We tell the students that, save $100 a month, and that will pay for your trip, will almost pay for your trip. The only other requirement that's going to possibly change for next year is that as of January 1, 2018, a Pennsylvania driver's license will not work if you're flying, so the kids all need passports. But we're going to tell the parents that, we're going to tell the students that when we have our meeting, so they should have more than enough time to take care of that. So that would be an extra added expense for the students, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same.
And so you said, so the cost, so $1,600 is not accurate, is it now $1,700? Or is
No,
that
no,
the
no,
accurate
$1,600 is what I put in the proposal.
Okay, and it was $1,500.
It was $1,500 past 2 years. So hopefully we can keep it at $1,500, but I don't want to come back later and say, we need a little bit extra because of the increased cost.
I just had one other question about, isn't Thursday arena conferences?
Typically
High school.
Thursday is conferences before President's Day weekend, yes.
Right, is this President's Day weekend?
Yes, it is. That's
Yes.
the only time that we could do it.
So then the teachers, do you do conferences with parents at a
So
certain
what
time?
we did this year is teachers reached out, to, I'll just speak for me personally. I can't speak for the teachers. I had my list of parents that attended this fall conferences, and I reached out to those parents. Any parent, any student that I was concerned with as far as academic performance in my class, I had been in contact with those parents as well to try to, reach out and eliminate the need to meet with them on that evening. Mr. Owens, he's our school psychologist, so he doesn't see too many parents on those nights. But the other teachers that we brought, I would tell them to do the same thing that I did. That seemed to work out very well. Parents were very receptive to that. They appreciated that. But that's how we handled it this year. We left right at the end of the day just to get down to catch that flight Thursday evening.
That sounds like a good plan. Any other questions? No? Okay, so
Thank you.
we'll vote on it next week.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see Jason again in September.
Yep.
They will be also posing their annual
Vermont trip.
So we'll see him again. And we have two trips here back to back. Mr. Dyer, I believe, is here for both, the Leadership Conference and the Beaver Run baseball trip. So any questions about either one of those? Let's take the first one.
Just for the occasion.
I apologize for my appearance. Thank you for holding the meeting if you did so. We played extra innings, so thank you. We lost 9-8. Yeah, tough one. That's all right.
Thanks for coming in so quickly.
No problem.
It's a busy time.
No problem.
So the first one is the State Leadership Conference, and both of these trips were run last year.
Correct. The Student Council State Leadership Conference is run the last almost 25 to 30 years. Mike White ran it for a long time. It is solely funded by the Student Council. They do their fundraising for it, etc. It's a couple nights. I think this year's out in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, so it's a little closer than going out to Pittsburgh when we take those long bus rides out there with 40 kids or something. So it's much closer, so we'll have a little bit less in travel costs that they'll have to incur for that trip.
And then how do you select the students? I know you said it was officers and then some other people. Are they all seniors or?
No, it's Student Council's 9 through 12, so it's anybody within the Student Council out of the 45 or 50 kids that are in council at that given time. They again have to apply to be accepted. They have to write an essay. We encourage them to host a workshop where they present a workshop at the state conference. That pretty much guarantees their acceptance, simply because We're only allotted 8 to 10 slots by the state organization for each school. So, but if we have a presenter of a workshop, they get to go without being counted as one of those 8 to 10. So the more children we have present workshops, the more kids we get to take. So we always encourage, and we typically have 1 or 2 kids presenting each year, so that allows us to take more kids. But there is an application process reviewed by the 5 elected officers, and they make their selection accordingly.
Well, no, it's good if you have all the grades, because you're
Absolutely.
great building the leaders for the.
And we always, as advisors, we encourage the younger ones to attend, because by the time your senior year, it's November, you know, the impact window is much smaller for a senior. Where if you have a sophomore or junior going to this conference, get hyped up and excited and how they can change their school culture and their school attitude, they come back with a lot more vigor and a lot more excitement.
Right.
Not that seniors won't get anything out of it, but their window of impact is much smaller, given the time frame.
Questions? No? Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
And then the Beaver Run trip.
Correct. Again, we've been running that for, I think, 13 or 14 years, going up to the Beaver Run Lodge up in Dingman's Ferry, Pennsylvania. As a team, we take all the boys up there Friday, and we do a lot of team bonding, small competition games. We have a wiffle ball tournament, there's a billiards tournament, and it just really builds that competitive and bonding nature that the team needs, essentially. Next year may be a special situation. Coach Nutteviller has 2 boys. Both will be at East Stroudsburg University next year playing baseball. So we possibly may have a workout with the college. If they can work out the schedule that they're home during that March date, that we might be able to actually go work out with the ESU team, which will be a great experience for the boys to see what it's like at the college level, what baseball really, you know, what it becomes at that level. So we're waiting on their schedule. They don't know what their schedule is as of yet, so we may have an amendment to that proposal forthcoming. But it would simply probably just incur, instead of us leaving at 3 o'clock, maybe leaving like at 1:30, you know, missing that last period of the day. So that way we have time to get to the workout on Friday evening. But again, it's a great opportunity for the boys to really bond and really become a cohesive unit. We've seen that pay off because there's very little baseball going on. There's a lot of, you know, I'd be sitting down with a couple of the guys and we're just talking about life in general. You know, what's scary about graduating, what's life going to bring, and it's just a chance for us to really connect with the boys on a more personal level. And when they feel connected to their coaches, they want to play harder, and it really creates an environment of excitement. So we really enjoy. I think coaches get more out of that trip than the players do, but that's my personal opinion.
Can I just ask then, if I'm hearing you right,
Mhm.
just so we don't have to have coach come back again, right now the date and dismissal time is at the end of the school day, roughly,
Yeah.
on Friday. Did I hear you correctly, though, if you're able to work out with the university,
Mhm.
then you may have to leave a little bit early?
Yeah, we probably would miss that last period of the day.
Okay, but otherwise, after school dismissal?
Yeah, if their schedule doesn't work with ours, or if they're away, you know, at a Southern game or something, then we'll just go as normal.
Are the committee members present tonight okay with missing one period that last day, if this works out,
Mhm.
that they can practice with the university? Just so they don't have to come back again and to
Sure.
redo this trip template?
Yeah, that's fine. You'll just let us know.
Yeah, we should know we'll probably get their schedule midsummer, but probably early September, we can let you know what the March date's going to be at the
If there's no
time.
change, then don't worry about it, but if it's going to change a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is it easier to approve it with that missed period, and then they can always give it back if they wanted to, rather than, because then do we have to reapprove it if they do get back to us, or we would be, you know?
I think if we just had the date on it, right, isn't that how we usually approve them anyway? They just have the date.
Yeah, the motion is really for, the motion's written up for the date of the trip and the location of the trip. It doesn't include the time. So it really just come back informational. I just wanted to make sure he's
Sure.
okay for planning purposes, that coach is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the motion wouldn't contain the dismissal time or anything like that.
Great.
Okay, hearing would be good. Just keep it posted on that piece.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Good luck with the rest of your season.
Oh, yes, thank you. Almost done, Wednesday.
And Jacob Grant is here to give us an update on the aquatic situation, a financial update for the natatorium, all the programs that operate there. So Jacob, thank you for coming and being so patient as we go through this agenda tonight.
No problem.
We seem to do this to you every year at this time, so thank
Yep.
you.
I think last year was like 9 p.m. before I got to it, so
Much better this
we're
year.
beating it this year, so I'm not too upset. It is. The red light?
No, just
Oh.
push, there you go.
Oh, different red light. Gotcha. All right, so you guys have the document I think Dr. Price shared with you guys. I guess we can just run from the top down. Up top, I have just the how much we brought in between the lessons and the clinics, and then how much we brought in for rentals from outside groups, and then I have our total income so far for the year. That is just up through March. I haven't updated with April or May numbers yet. I'm still receiving money for swim lessons that are ongoing and late registrations for the swim clinic and the water polo clinic, because I do have additional students who joined past the registration date because we still had openings. Then I have the expenses. Again, this is just up through March for the lifeguards of what we have paid each lifeguard, the polo instructors, and then some of those lifeguards also includes the swim instructors. They're double duty. So some of those students with larger numbers have also received payment for swim lessons as swim instructors. If you then go down further, I have the rental breakdowns from September through February. This year we only had 2 groups make up our rentals, the Pennridge Aquatic Club and then the North Penn YMCA. They rented out the pool for a weekend for their championship meet. They like to hold it at a neutral site. So they've been holding it here for this year and last year. If you remember from years past, we had Percy Pirates. They were the third party that rented from us, but they're no longer functioning as an organization. So we lost some income from them through the rentals. And then I also have the lesson and clinic breakdown. You can see we didn't start lessons this year until February due to lack of lifeguards and swim instructors applying through the district to work for me. But we also started, new this year was the water polo clinic. Hopefully that was to get kids introduced to water polo at a younger age, and also to try and offset some of the lost income from Percy Pirates since we didn't have them coming in anymore for training. We had about, I have those numbers. In the water polo clinic, we had 28 athletes involved. Percy Pirates was looking at normally about 10 to 15. So we about doubled the youth program for water polo, getting them involved. I'm looking to do another clinic in the fall to continue that, and working out a schedule with PAC. We also had the swim clinic. If you go down even further, we have 32 kids in the swim clinic. This is about the same number we had last year. I think last year we had 30. I cap it off at 36 as the maximum, just for instructor to student ratio and space in the pool that we have. Like to keep it so that we can work with them a little bit rather than just having a large number of students and not as many coaches. And that is all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, and then we have the community lap swim at the bottom. We had a little bit of money and use from that. Are there any questions?
How many students do you say were in swim lessons?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. 32. 32 are currently in swim.
That's the swim clinic.
They're actually 32, 28, 32. 32 in swim lessons, 28 in polo clinic, and 32 in the swim clinic.
But the swim lessons don't they sign up month by month?
Yeah, that's how many we've had throughout the whole, since February join.
Oh, because it only was in February. And so did most
Yeah.
of those kids do it from February till the end of the year?
Most of them have done them February through April. We had a few stop once in May, once a lot of the spring and summer sports like baseball and soccer started for that. But yeah, most of them continued on. We had a few drop off and then a few more add in to replace those that have left.
Could you just let the committee know briefly about your plan to get lessons started early next year based on training lifeguards in the summer?
Yeah, I am attending an LGI lifeguard instructor course in June, 2 weekends in June, so I will